Let's take an early look at Tennessee's trip to Athens, Georgia. College game day is going to be there. The early line on this one, as we sit here on Sunday morning, Tennessee plus 10.5. Plus 10.5 after what Georgia just had done to them against Ole Miss. We're going to give you our prediction of this one on our Tuesday live show. Okay, so 11 a.m. Eastern, right here on the On3 YouTube channel, we will give you our winner in this game. So make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss that. Also follow me on Instagram and on Twitter at PicKell. Let me know on there who you have winning this one. So here's what it's going to come down to for me when it comes to who's going to have the upper hand in this one. Nico goes out of the game against Mississippi State. Josh Heupel says, hey, we feel good about having him next week. Just kind of a precautionary move for us. My question is, can Nico take advantage of that Georgia secondary? Because Georgia, their secondary, they've got some guys now. They got some talent, but it has been very much so touch and go with that Georgia secondary. They allow over 300 yards against Mississippi State. The Alabama game, obviously, is very clearly drilled into the frontal cortex of your brain if you're a Georgia fan. Ole Miss had a lot of success scheming you up in the secondary. Like, this Georgia unit now, I don't think they've played to their potential just yet, but if you're Nico Iamaleava, I don't think he needs to go for 300 yards. I think he's need to have to do enough. The two things I would say, he needs to be timely. Within him being timely, two things I would say. He needs to be able to be dialed in early, to be able to ideally lighten up that box for how Georgia defends the run. Then you need to also be able to be clutch, going to the vein of being timely. Third and long, extending drives, got to have it situations. I need to know that number 8 can deliver for us. Because if that happens, especially earlier, if you're able to be multidimensional, then you get to lean into what you want to do well if you're Tennessee. People talk about Josh Heupel, and you think of explosives, you think of 2022, you think of Jalen Hyatt and Hendon Hooker. Like, this is an offense that is built on running the gosh darn rock. This season, they're averaging 5 yards a carry, and they're running it 62% of the time. So again, if Nico can take advantage of what I think will be there in the secondary, if his receivers can go win for him, they can connect on just a deep ball early and then be able to be dialed in situationally on some of those third and passing situations, that's going to be advantage Tennessee consistently throughout this game. And obviously, if you can run the football, that's going to take some more pressure off of Nico. So very much so a complementary style needed for Tennessee to get a win in Athens. Now for Georgia, kind of in a similar vein, speaking of helping your quarterback and what you need from your quarterback, like, it's pretty straightforward. Georgia needs Carson Beck to play clean. And that's something you're going to hear a lot about pretty much throughout the entirety of this week when it comes to breaking this game down. Can Georgia run the football enough to take the pressure off of Carson Beck? Because when Carson Beck's had those turnover issues, where have we seen it most visibly? He's starting to press. He feels like he has to make a play. Georgia, going into last week, was like a 56% of the time throw the football sort of team, meaning they were saying, Carson Beck, we will go as you go, which isn't bad logic because he's one of the better quarterbacks in the country coming into the season. However, if you can run the football, that's going to help him in a massive, massive way. For starters, if you can run the ball and you're living in, let's call it 2nd and 5, 3rd and 3, what does Tennessee not get to do? Well, they would not get to do what Ole Miss did to you, which is get after Carson Beck in third and passing situations. Ole Miss got to Carson Beck 5 times. Why? Because it felt like they were in 3rd and 7 every other series. And Ole Miss, they've got a great defensive line. James Pierce is going to be a top 15, if not a top 10 pick in next year's NFL draft. You live in 3rd and 7, he will eat your lunch. It'll be a very similar box score to what you had this past weekend when you went to Oxford, to make that very clear. Also, if you're able to run the football, speaking to taking pressure off Beck and having him not press in a wild way, it'll actually empower Carson Beck to then push the ball downfield. Because if you can get 3 yards, 4 yards here with Etienne or Frazier and just kind of have some success, some momentum on the ground, at some point in time, you have to make a business decision if you're Tennessee that we got to add extra numbers into the box. We're tired of Nate Frazier getting 6 yards on first down. I wouldn't necessarily guess that's probably the average number, but you hear the sentiment I'm saying. The game flow that would benefit Georgia is run the football, open it up downfield. Carson Beck then gets to kind of breathe a little bit easier, has more downfield windows to throw to. Dylan Bell gets open, maybe Lawson Lucky gets open. Like, you have some more breathing room on the back end because of what you did up front, having some dirty work done there in the run game. Now, here's sort of the cliche thing to say, but I think it needs to be said just because we're looking at this game so early. This is a massive moment for both sides of this. For Georgia, it is very much so an elimination spot. If they lose, you're not making the playoff with 3 losses. For Tennessee, the word elimination game is going to be thrown around a lot. I don't know if I buy that quite as intensely for Tennessee. I think even if they lose, their playoff hopes aren't dashed. But, I mean, if they win, you feel really good about your chances of making the college football playoff with wins over Bama and Georgia. Let's make that clear. Who meets the moment? Because for Georgia, I've kept waiting for Georgia to just have this championship edge sort of moment. And we saw it against Texas with their backs against the wall and they're on the road and they're dogs, but they go and play Mississippi, Ole Miss, for those of y'all that don't call University of Mississippi, Mississippi. And they didn't have that same fire. I saw them get out-gridded. I saw them get out-physical, quite frankly. And some of that I think is Ole Miss has really good players. I think Ole Miss proved yesterday they have better players than Georgia, just to call a spade there. But Georgia right now has their back against the wall. Do they come out swinging? Or do they look at that spread, look at the fact that they're back at home, and say, you know what, and I don't think Georgia's looking at the spread, but maybe, just maybe, they feel some sort of confidence that maybe they inherited and didn't necessarily earn. Just curious to see how they answer that call to action here in this game and meet this moment. And then for Tennessee, what an opportunity. There's something to be said here for the spot for Tennessee being a bit unique. A Tennessee win, I understand they still have some games left on the schedule that could present some problems, like the game against Vanderbilt will be a lot of fun this year for the first time in a minute. But if you beat Georgia, again, your playoff ticket is, I don't know if punched is the word, but you feel like it's about to get punched. You hand it off to Tom Hanks in the Polar Express, and he's about to give you the little, the deal he does at the end of the movie, spoiler alert, where he punches the ticket. That's a poor metaphor, but you hear him going with this. You're on the doorstep making the college football playoff. And optically, if you beat Bama and Georgia in the same year, what are we saying about Josh Heupel and the future of what Tennessee football is? What are we saying about how they can take that on the recruiting trail? There's so much potential energy that could be unleashed by a win over Georgia. Can you meet that moment? Can you handle that pressure in this spot on the road with everyone watching, with you being a double-digit dog in Athens? I can't wait to see. Can't wait to see, but again, we'll give you our pick in this game on our Tuesday live show. So make sure you're subscribed, make sure you're locked in so you don't miss a minute of it. We appreciate y'all. We love y'all. We're going to keep this party rolling, and we will see y'all next time.